All right, episode 2. Here we go. We got a couple of really great topics today. We're going to talk again in the theme of businesses, small businesses. Are you a decision maker? Are you just starting your business? Or are you kind of hitting your stride and getting going? And we're going to talk about how to build a team that doesn't necessarily work under the same roof as you. We're going to be talking about picking lawyers, picking CPAs, and how to pick a good lawyer, what to look out for. We're going to focus on lawyer because we are lawyers, obviously. And we're going to talk about how to pick a good lawyer and what you should look for. And we're going to get into that.
Yeah. So one of the ways to think about this is, what is your core competency, right? So you have a fairly limited number of things that you do really, really well. Those are your foundation. Those are your core competencies. When you're standing on that ground, that's your territory. When you get outside of that ground, then you need to know where your limitations are. And one of the core issues that a lot of businesses encounter is who helps you do some of the professional tasks that any business needs, things like accounting. And unless you're a very unusual business, your accounting is not one of your core competencies, right? Law is not one of your core competencies. Engaging with government is not one of your core competencies. And so you need to know, how do you bring in the right people to help you solve those tasks? So Ryan, when you're talking to someone that's a business owner and they're just starting up, or they've operated for a little while, they've got some capital, they've had some success, when is the right time to start thinking about hiring a professional, and what's the first professional somebody should hire?
Well, I'm going to get into the professionals in just a second, about who they are and how you find them and all that. But before we get into that, let's really drill down on core competency. Mm-hmm. So if you are in business, you are operating a business, or you are a key man in some sort of business, whether you are an equity stakeholder or you're just one of the key employees, mm-hmm. helping to build this, you have a core competency, you have a skill set. And I learned a long time ago. Obviously, being a lawyer, we did a lot of schooling. Mm-hmm. And I know some of the wealthiest people I know have a very high level of education. Some of them didn't even graduate from high school.
Right.
So it's a broad spectrum of people that get their core competency either from experience or self-study or through more traditional education, but they have something. And for anybody that's gone through that and they're at the point now where they are delivering a service, or they're creating a good or something along those lines, is they are very, very good at something,
right? Whatever
that something is. As a lawyer, obviously, that would be, I'm good at law. And within law, I have certain areas that I'm better at than others.
Right.
So what I really try to do as a business owner and as a professional is I really try to maximize the amount of time that I spend on my core competency, because I'm good at it. It's where it makes me money. That's what I want to do. So when I spend time on things that are not my core competency, like accounting, for example,
right,
it's not a good use of my time.
You're losing money.
I am actually losing money when that happens.
So one of the things I think I hear you saying is that people that are successful know exactly what their core competency is.
Yes.
They don't have to think about it. If someone asks them, is this what you do? Is this part of, and what they mean by is this what you do is this part of the core pieces that you have developed, that you've worked out, that you have a system and a plan for? You need to know immediately the answer to that. And your entire team needs to immediately know the answer to that. So once you've identified those things, how do you evaluate what things you should go into, or building additional competencies?
Yeah, so when you are focused on your core competency, that is the core and the strength of your business. Mm-hmm. And it's so easy as a small business owner in particular, or a medium business size owner, to go in there and to, let's take the bookwork, for example, to do the bookkeeping and the bookwork. Is this an important function to a business? Absolutely. It's one of your core tenets mm-hmm. for any business. You got to know the financials. Mm-hmm. You'll hear me say that over and over again. You have to know the financials. You don't need to be a financial wizard. You don't need to be a CPA. But I would encourage business owners, don't get lost in the weeds on Google training yourself to be a CPA or training yourself to be a lawyer. Go hire these people. I promise you're going to get more bang for your buck if you find the right people and use them in the right ways.
Right. Well, and that there's certain businesses have different requirements. There's certain businesses that you can't go into or you shouldn't go into without the kind of capital from the get-go to have a CPA doing very careful bookkeeping. There's certain businesses that you just can't go into without proper legal support. I mean, one of the things that we've talked about is opening a distillery. These are high compliance type of environments, high compliance industries. And if you don't have the money to shell out for tens of thousands of dollars or more of legal fees, you're not really in a position to go that direction.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in a business that there's a lot of regulation or it requires legal fees for either starting up and setting a business, which is so important. Well, I'll unpack that more here in a minute. Your business plan is going to reveal to you: do I need legal? If I do need legal, how much do I need? If I need an accountant, what kind of accountant do I need? How much money should I be spending on that accountant? And so, let's talk about finding these people and making them part of your team. So I'm going to focus on lawyers in particular. We'll talk about these accountants and other professionals as well, but we're lawyers, and I really know how to pick a lawyer,
right? Because
I am a lawyer,
right?
People come to me and they need family law or they need criminal representation or things like that. This is not what I do, and I'll refer that to somebody else. But somebody comes to me or comes to us and says, I need help starting up a business, or I need help drafting a contract, or I need some asset protection in the form of estate planning within our core competencies. That's going to be our home base. That's what we're going to operate from. That's what we're really good at. So, if you're a small business owner, I think the question is, how do you go about finding a lawyer? It's the old phrase, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
But having a really good business lawyer to help you get your business started and help you get those initial contracts going and kind of give you a 30,000-foot overview of what law is, how to interact with it, how to look out for the pitfalls is just so valuable, and it's really not that expensive. We're talking about $3,000-$4,000, maybe even less,
right,
to get your business kind of up and running the right way, rather than going on Google or one of these other services like LegalZoom and kind of doing it yourself. So hiring a good professional is just it pays dividends from then on, and then you have a relationship with that person and you can use them. So a lot of big businesses, you get like these big corporations like these Walmarts and kind of these big retailers that we all know or familiar with. They have in-house counsel, and everybody's heard of the term in-house counsel.
Right.
As a small business owner making revenue under $100,000 a year or under $1 million a year, or sometimes even $10 or $20 million a year, you really don't have the ability to hire in-house counsel. Lawyers are expensive.
Right.
So you want to get in-house outside counsel, right? Somebody that you have a relationship with that you can call, that you can get answers to questions, or you can get one-off contracts drafted efficiently because you've developed that relationship. That's really what we're talking about here.
Well, and you're talking about something that you have a long-term relationship with, where they know your business, they know your business's history.
Yeah, that's right.
You don't have to explain to them, oh, by the way, this is what I do, and this is how I do it, and this is how I get paid. The principles of your business and some of your history is already known to this person. You're not bringing them up to speed from zero.
Yeah, and you do that from the beginning, and it's more efficient, right? Somebody comes to me and they say, hey, I've got this business that's been operating for a while. I need your help. There's just a certain amount of billable time that I have to put in to figure out what's going on, to identify what the problem is or what their objectives are, and to spend that time. And if I know them from the beginning, or if I know them from that point afterward, I know what their business is. I know that they've got a piece of real property that they're renting to themselves, and then they've got a management company for it, and it's a peripheral to their main core competency. All this, I know it. I'm ready to go. So they call me with a question. I go, hey, here's the answer.
Or we can quickly look up the answer in the file, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, in the file, and we know what it is, and we've got good notes on it, that kind of a thing.
As opposed to someone who comes in and they have a couple of DIY contracts, they have something they got from their friend, they have something they downloaded off the internet, these types of things.
Yeah,
and what does that do to your workflow?
And that's really common. I see a lot of businesses that are the kind of the do-it-yourself businesses because they're trying to save money. And, and working with a lawyer, I don't want to use the word scary. It's not scary to work with a lawyer, but there's an unknown element there.
Right.
Because lawyers have the perception of being expensive, and, and oftentimes they are, but, you get what you pay for.
Right.
You pay for professional quality service. You should darn well get professional quality results from it. And that's what you get when you hire a lawyer. It's the same thing with you go to a doctor. You need some kind of a medical treatment. You're not, on Google looking it up yourself.
One hopes.
Yeah, one hopes. Self-medicating or doing surgery on your hand or whatever that is. You go to a professional and it's worth it. It's worth the investment.
We have systems in other areas where people don't spend $200,000 on a medical treatment that hasn't been evaluated by a doctor, but people will frequently entrust $500,000 contracts, and even if it's like a $10,000 contract. If it's a $10,000 contract and you're not sure what that contract will do if it's challenged, what good is that to you?
Yeah, we see that all the time, where there will be these big deals come in, and one of the first questions I'll ask was, well, have you personally guaranteed the contract? And the response almost uniformly for people that have not really hired a lawyer in the past is, what does that mean? Mm-hmm. And almost always they've put their own personal assets on the chopping block as a backstop, in addition to the business assets. And they don't even really know what the implications are, because they had a contract and somebody signed it and they signed it, and it's just, it's a mess. And they are very exposed. They don't even know.
Right.
Or they have a contract that just doesn't function like they thought it would.
Right. I mean, that's one of the big things that we see is contracts that don't function. I mean, one of the things we've discussed is that contracts are kind of like software. But if you buy bad software, you don't know the software is bad until you try to run it, right?
Right.
Well, when do you run legal software? You run legal software when things go wrong.
When there's a problem.
And when you're in court.
Yes.
And finding out that your contract is just non-functional in court is an extremely expensive proposition.
Right. And I'll tell you, I mean, you've had these contracts come across your desk as the plaintiff, so as somebody that breached the contract on our client, and we have to go collect on a debt or bring some kind of an action. And when I see a contract that was pulled off of Google or one of these online services, I immediately think to myself, okay, we now have the advantage. Mm-hmm. Because it is the vast majority of the time the contract has holes in it. It's wrong. It just doesn't have the right kind of language. And there's just a variety of things that we do correctly from the beginning. And then we see these problems in the contract. We go, okay, well, we've got, this bad contract has now put us in a better position to bring an action against somebody. I don't like bringing actions against somebody. I want deals to go well.
Right.
But every once in a while, that's what the courts are for. That's why you have contracts. You got to go enforce things. And so doing it right from the beginning is just a money saver.
Right.
I mean, you could spend a couple $1,000s, get a very good contract to serve your purposes, right now, or you could spend tens of thousands of dollars and figure it out through the legal process.
Right.
So that's really what we're talking about here is efficiency. So I think the next step is how do you select good professionals? How do you find a good lawyer?
Right.
There's a couple ways to do this, and what we're really talking about. So you don't have a lawyer now. You think that you might need one, or you think that you might like to at least consult with one. Most lawyers that I've seen that are pretty good don't always charge a fee to go see them and to go figure it out. I don't want to say anything negative about lawyers that charge a fee just to have a meeting with them, because it depends on what your specialty is.
Right.
And I totally get that. So that's not dispositive of if a lawyer is good or not, whether they charge an initial consultation fee. Oftentimes, the good lawyers don't necessarily charge that. But again, that we're talking about business consultations here, not family law, not criminal law, not these sort of
personal injury.
Yeah, personal injury, not these more broad market specializations. So the initial consultation fee is not a barrier to entry to me. It might be worth somebody's time to pay that and to go for it. So where do you find a good lawyer? let's kind of go in order of importance. I think the first thing you want to do is you want to tap into people that you know. And hey, does anybody know a lawyer that does this? Because that kind of starts to give some organic authenticity to selecting that lawyer. So yes, one of your friends or family members, hey, do you know this person? Yes, I know them. They're a lawyer. Yes, they practice business law. No, they don't practice a variety of law. And nothing against lawyers that practice a variety of law. And that's going to be about geography. You get into rural areas and they practice a variety of law, and that's perfectly standard. You get into more populous areas and you tend to see lawyers practicing in just one or two unique areas. And I like that because I think it really allows the lawyer to get good at whatever that is. So that's a good starting point. If you're going to add to that, I would love it if you talk to somebody that says, yes, I know this lawyer, and yes, this is somebody I've used before. I had a good experience. I got good results from them. That's the kind of person that I go, okay, I'm coming in warm. This is not just a cold introduction. Somebody's vouched for them. And it's kind of this process of community authentication.
Right. Well, and it shows that this firm, this individual has a set of business relationships, and good lawyers are going to work hard to maintain those business relationships. Because what you want,
absolutely,
again, in terms of selecting a business attorney, is somebody who is invested in a particular community and is committed to not just having transactional relationships, but where we're gonna know each other, we're gonna continue working together. And a lot of that, frankly, comes down to emotional maturity, the lawyer's ability. I mean, there are people that are technically brilliant lawyers that we both know that they don't have the people skills, they don't have the stability over the long haul to maintain relationships. So they do fine for themselves doing these transactional work, but you want someone who does transactions for you, but who's going to be there for the long term.
Yes.
Where you're going to be able to call them in 10 years, in 15 years, in 20 years, and have the confidence that they're not just going to bail on the community.
Right. So step one is tapping into your local community, finding somebody that's good, that's got a good local reputation. That's a great starting point. Here's another one that you can look for if you don't know somebody that knows a lawyer. And I get this all the time, is look for things, treat finding a lawyer like finding a good restaurant or finding a good plumber or finding a good anything. Look at their Google reviews. Check their Google reviews. See what people have said about them. Look at those testimonials. I would first look for lawyers that have a lot of really positive Google reviews and see what people said about them. Hey, this was a great person to work with. Excellent outcome. Look for stuff like that. And, just like, I'm going to go try out a new restaurant. Oh, they got 4.5 stars out of 5 at a restaurant. I'm going to go try that out.
Right.
It's sort of this authentication of somebody in the local community that can be good. And it's great if you can find somebody like that and take your time. Look for that person and then put them on a list. And so that's step one. Then put them on a list. Step two, go interview them.
Right.
Do I like this person? Do they sound like they know what they're talking about? Is this somebody that I think I can work with? Do their fees sound reasonable to me?
Right.
The kind of fees you're looking for are probably going to be hundreds of dollars an hour, or it'll be a flat rate for that scope. But ask them what their fees are. How do you bill? How do you do that? Ask those questions. Interview this person. Don't forget, even though you're dealing with, with attorneys, and sometimes people get a little bit intimidated, and they really shouldn't. If the attorney is being intimidating to you, that's not a good attorney for you.
Right.
They need to look you in the eye, they need to relate with you, and they need to really have kind of that servant's mentality. How can I serve you? Because don't forget, you're the client, it's your money in your pocket, and you're hiring this person to work for you. Even though they're the professional, you're also the professional. And they need to have the mentality of, hey, how can I serve you? How can I help you? How can I serve your needs? And if it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit. Go hire another attorney. But if it is a good fit, invest in that person. Let them invest in you.
Right.
And I think that's going to be how you build out your team. And that template can be applied to the CPA, to help you with your accounting or your book work, or if you end up hiring somebody that does outsourced HR or financial advice or whatever it is. You don't need to go overboard. You can evolve into adding these people. But work with people that you like, that give you a good result, and demand a good result from them in a nice way. Say, I expect you to give me a good result, and they should say, yes, I expect you to expect me to give you a good result. That's what you're looking for.
Yeah, well, and if you don't have that type of relationship with somebody, then that's not someone you're going to be able to work with in the long term. And that is kind of the core issue here about is whether people are going to work in the long term. Also, just kind of a note in terms of reviews and internet reviews, you want to make sure that you understand the relationship between the business and any particular review source. So when you have business models like Yelp, for instance, there's great reviews on Yelp. Yelp can be a very interesting and powerful way to evaluate people. But whenever there's a potential or real financial relationship between the business owner and Yelp. So for instance, Yelp, if a business does not pay Yelp money, they rank the lowest, they put the lowest reviews right at the top for people to see. If a business does pay Yelp, they move those low ranked reviews lower down on the feed.
Yeah.
That type of relationship, it changes how you should evaluate the reviews. Again, something like Google, which Google, you cannot really affect those reviews one way or the other.
What we're looking for is organic authenticity. That's what we're looking for, where real people are giving real feedback and real results. So for example, in contrast to that, you see this with lawyers a lot. And, you'll see somebody will be, and I'm making up terms here. I don't know exactly what all these different terms are, but they'll say like, this is a 5-star lawyer, or this lawyer is a lawyer of the year, or it's a super lawyer, or something like that. And they put that on their website, or they put that in their marketing materials. Almost always those are bought and paid for subscriptions to various publications. Say, hey, you pay me $5,000 or whatever it is, and oftentimes they are expensive, and we'll call you the lawyer of the year, or we'll call you the best lawyer in the area. And some of them are genuine and they are selected, but most of them are people that say, hey, lawyers that say, hey, I'm going to buy this title. And when you're buying a title like that, to me, my opinion is it really doesn't mean anything. What means something to me is when I am going and researching a product or researching a professional, and somebody has actually worked with them. They have authentically said, yes, this is somebody I like. And that's real to me. Everything else is just marketing and advertising. And, that's fine to get your name out there. But when you're selecting a professional, I love the organic option. I like either knowing people or interviewing them myself and figuring out if this is a good person based on that very natural, organic search and results and authentication function that we've all kind of come to rely on.
Right. Well, and I mean, this same process is what allows you to select a good accountant, right? Particularly a good business accountant. If you hire a marketing expert or professional, find someone that you like, that you can work for the long term, because you want to build relationships that you can manage effectively.
Right.
So I think that's about winding up what we wanted to talk about and get into today. Any final thoughts, Ryan?
No, good enough for today. When you're building your team, build the team out early. Build a strong team, somebody that you can rely on. Just be honest and forthright with them, what you're looking for, and expect that back to you. Don't be afraid to fire an attorney, to fire an accountant, and to find somebody good that really works with you long term and create that authentic, real, genuine relationship. And it will pay dividends over the course of the many years that you're in business, that you're interacting with your employees and your customers, and you're functioning as a business. You'll be protected, you'll be safe. And find these people. They're out there. Find these really good professionals. Bring them on your team and utilize them. And don't be afraid to use them.
Right. Well, we hope this was a valuable discussion about knowing where your core competencies are and knowing when essential business functions are outside of those competencies. What do? You hire a professional.
Hey, collaboration is key. So send this to a business colleague. Talk about it. Share it. Give us a like. We'll see you next time.